morning class. I hope that you are hard at work, or I guess good afternoon class. I hope you're hard at work, at home, doing all the stuff that you need to be doing for reading and math and science and social studies. I was looking at what you have to do for social studies, and I thought, maybe I can do a read aloud and kind of also help guide you through how you can fill in your information. I have it in Spanish because in your packets, I think it's in both languages, but I think in Spanish, it'll help your parents understand what you're supposed to be doing as well. So I'm going to be reading Turning Pages, My Life Story by Sonia Sotomayor, illustrated by Lulu Delker. It's an autobiography, which means that she wrote about her own life. And I'm going to be reading to you in English, but writing what needs to be written in Spanish. And if you can see behind me, there's books missing, and I'm using them to hold up the iPad. So, without further ado, here's Turning Pages by Sonia Sotomayor. And inside you can see pictures of her life. She dedicated this book to her abuelita Mercedes, her mommy Selena, and all of the role model women in my life. Which also ties into the fact that March is Women's History Month, so there's that. And then the illustrator dedicated it to Para Ana Mita Bentancur, mi cuñada. Here's the title page. My story is a story about books, of poems and comics, of law and mystery, of science and science fiction, written both in Spanish and in English. Even though I was born and grew up in New York City, Espanol, Spanish, was the language we spoke at home, the language of Puerto Rico, the island where my family came from. That's an interesting fact. She was born here, but her family was from Puerto Rico. I'm going to add that to interesting facts. So, nació en los Estados Unidos, pero sus padres eran de Puerto Rico. And just like that, I already have my first interesting facts. I struggled to learn English. Balancing two languages in my head wasn't always easy. But books made learning fun. Reading was like lighting candles, each book a flame that lit up the world around me. What was so special about books? Do written words have a unique magic? At each step of my life, I would put together the answer, like pieces to a puzzle. So, as I'm reading this, I'm making a text-to-self connection. I was born here, but my mom was born in Uruguay. So I was raised here. And she would speak to me in Spanish. My dad would speak to me in English because he was born in Illinois. So I'm making a text-to-self connection that I had to balance two languages in my head. Probably not as much as you guys, because you guys are in a bilingual class and you have to balance both languages. And we're constantly switching back and forth. But I made a text-to-self connection with Sonia Sotomayor, the author. My first memory of the power of words came from Abuelita, my beloved grandma. Every Saturday, my aunts and uncles and cousins would gather for a party at her home. After we ate dinner, the crowded little room would get quiet. Abuelita would close her eyes and recite poems written long ago about the tropical land of our family had left behind. The words she spoke sent a charge through the room and sparked memories of her faraway island home. I didn't know how to read yet. The written words, I discovered, were electrical currents that jolted feelings to life. So in her early life, which we can read about, her grandma would tell stories and poems. and that helped inspire her to want to read, and that gave her the power of the written word. So, her early life, I'll add that. Su abuela contaba cuentos. I still want to know when she was born, how many siblings she has, and anything about her family. But right now we know that her grandmother told her stories. When I was 7, I got sick and was diagnosed with diabetes. I was so afraid of the big needle used to take my blood for testing at the hospital that I ran outside and hid under a parked car. What? Look, she's hiding under a parked car. I also learned that I would have to get shots every day to stay alive. All those needles were scary. I found my courage in an unlikely place, comic books. After reading stories of regular people who had secret superpowers that could save the world, I imagined being as brave and powerful as they were. Then I learned how to give myself the shots, and in time, I got used to it. Books, it seemed, were magic potions that could fuel me with the bravery of superheroes. So I want you to really look at this. The illustrator did a good job making a comic book type story about her being afraid, but then it becoming her superpower. She became brave, and she was able to have her superpower be that she was brave, and it didn't scare her anymore. So we learned that when she was 7, which I would consider that her early life, when she was 7, she was diagnosed with diabetes. But also, something I found interesting. So she was diagnosed. Something I found interesting was that comic books inspired her to be brave. And she was able to give herself the needle shots. So I'm going to put that in her interesting facts, because I think that's interesting. So I think we're running out of time, but let's see how many more pages we can get through. I've been inspired by Supergirl, but I still needed to use an airplane if I wanted to fly. When we took trips from the cold concrete streets of the Bronx to sunny Puerto Rico, I ate fresh mangoes that had just fallen off the trees, sipped juice straight from the coconut, and marveled at the shimmer of tiny glowing creatures in the bay at night. But my favorite time was siesta at my aunt's home in Mayaguez. At lunchtime, we feasted on rice and beans and chicken spiced with sofrito, a delicious mixture of tomatoes, onions, garlic, and peppers. Then, belly stuffed full, all my aunts and uncles and cousins would settle down for a nap in the peaceful quiet of a hot afternoon. That sounds pretty good. They had a really big lunch, and then they got to take a nap. That sounds amazing. Their nap time was my reading time. I had my trusty books to keep me company. Books were my loyal friends. They made it so I never felt lonely. So in her early life, she would travel to Puerto Rico to visit family. We can add that also to our list of stuff from her early life. So, visitaron a familia en Puerto Rico. Y ella seguía leyendo. Uh-oh, this is a dark picture. I wonder what's going to happen. When I was 9 years old, my father, Papi, who had been sick for a long time, passed away. I felt sad and confused. My home was filled with gloom. But I discovered a place where I could feel comfort. All summer long, the nearby Parkchester Library, the musty volumes. I walked through the aisles and touched the musty volumes until one book after another caught my eye. I read as many books as I could. I wanted to read them all. I was lucky to have a library that was in my neighborhood, walking distance from home. For hours, I could sail away to the wondrous lands and the stories I would choose from the stacks. The library was my harbor, and books were little boats that helped me escape sadness at home. So, when she was 9, her father passed away. So that's in her early life. Let's add it. Se murió su padre cuando tenía 9 años. So already we've learned quite a bit. I'm going to stop here. We'll continue reading this tomorrow. Tell your parents what you have learned so far and your favorite part of the story. I'll see you guys tomorrow with the rest of the book.